Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. I am so excited to have my friend Martine here today. As you guys know, I'm Suzanne. I'm the head coach of Grace Financial Coaching. But Martine Lopez is a speaker, author, and trainer and coach in the personal development industry. He has written a book. I have read it myself, The Curiosity Theory, Retraining Your Brain for Better Relationships. And it's a powerful methodology that radically changes the way we talk and listen to one another. It helps us to look at life, the way that others look at us, the way that others look at life, and the way that we look at each other. Highly, highly recommend picking up a copy of The Curiosity Theory. Martine's gift is strengthening professional and personal relationships by applying curiosity, plus improving communication and collaboration at a fundamental level. We are so excited to have Martine here today to tell us a little bit more about what he does and also the dumbest thing he's ever done with money. What's up, Martine?
The dumbest thing. It's not a dumbest thing. It's like things, it's it's multiple.
I've had numerous people, apply to be on the show and be like, you didn't leave enough space here.
That's right. That's right. Let me send you the book.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for having
Cliff
me.
Notes version. I'm going to get a 2-hour show.
That's right. That's right. Sit back, lie on the couch. I got to talk to you, right?
Exactly. Put your feet up. Let me get you some hot tea and we'll get started. So,
that's right.
Well, Martine, before we get into that, I really want to hear more about your work in the personal development industry.
Well, I started back when I was 19 years old. I got invited to a class, and I was really excited because it was a really cute girl invited me. So I thought it was kind of like the girl was like asking me out on a date. Turns out they were talking about all this personal development stuff, and that was really cool. And I signed up for the course. It was really funny because this is back in like 1997, or actually no, it's probably like 94 or something. It was a long time ago. That was in the 80s. It was in the 80s, like 86. That's when it was. And she had told me, she had invited me and she said the class, it's just a one night class. It's like $5.95. So I thought it was going to be like $5.95, like, cause it's like one night, and I'm used to going, I was in the real estate business back then. And I was used to like, just these free workshops where where you may pay $10 for like a dinner or something like that. Right. You pay for the dinner, but it's a free workshop. So I went there and I was like, I had like $20 or something in my wallet. And I thought I was going to pay like $5.95. It was $595. I was like, oh, wow. So I ended up signing up. I actually ended up signing up, and I took that class. I had to go up to LA, actually Newport Beach, to take the class. It was 2 full weekends and an evening. So it was a lot of time, a lot of travel. And that really started my journey of like looking at myself and, and just seeing like, what do I need to do to understand myself better, to communicate more effectively? And why do I do what I do?
Why? Okay. I'm going to go, when we hang up, I'm going to leave the house and I'm going to go find some random 19-year-old. And I'm going to say, are you committed to your personal development? And they're going to look at me like I have 4 heads. Why do you think you as a 19-year-old realized the value of personal development?
What they talked about is possibility, like what's possible. And at that time I was going to school, but I wasn't very good at it. I was pretty much on the brink of like, just like leaving, because I just wasn't very good at school. And I had a job at that point. I was working at I was a musician. So I'd work on the weekends, and I was a DJ. So I'd, work nights and weekends, but during the day I'd worked at this, it's a car dealership. And I was in a parts department, and I wanted something different. I knew that's not what I wanted, but I couldn't figure out what I really wanted to do other than write music and play music. So it was kind of like, I really needed something else, but I didn't know how to think differently than I thought. And that's what they showed me, is that I was limited by the way I was thinking. And I looked and I said, where I live, kind of this is the way people think, and this is the kind of things people do. But I didn't want any of that. I didn't want any of the life that all the people in my neighborhood had. Not like there was anything wrong with it. It just wasn't the life I wanted.
Right. You wanted something different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That is, I did not realize you were going to tell me you started this journey at age 19, and I've known you for quite some time now. So That is really impressive.
I just turned 57. It's been a long journey.
I was going to say you just turned 27, but you blew it. So
That's right. I got it. That's right. Don't tell my
so
girlfriend.
tell us more about your book and what you're doing to help these 19-year-olds, these 29-year-olds, these 39-year-olds
Yeah.
that want to get more into that really want to start to think differently themselves.
Well, this is the book. It's called The Curiosity Theory. I'm actually getting ready to relabel the book. And
Nice.
it really is about understanding how we communicate and why we do the things that we do. Why do we fight? Why do we argue? Why do we get upset? Why do we cut people off? And then how do we actually get back to what's important to us, which is connecting as human beings? And how do we override those reptilian responses that we have, in our heads and in our bodies? Like, oh God, we get upset and we just react. I'm such a reactor. I'm one of those guys that, something happens. It's so funny. So it's really my own personal journey, to keep working so that I actually am a better human being. I just really get along better with people, and people have a better experience of me, and I have a better experience of my own life.
That's so great. I love that. I
Yeah.
think I tend not to think that like personality quizzes or enneagrams or anything like that are very helpful, but I do think that they're helpful when we look at them in the sense of what am I versus what is this person.
Mhm.
If we're just looking at it like, oh, I'm Suzanne and I'm an Enneagram 8 or whatever the heck I am. My
Yeah.
friend
Yeah.
can tell you, she loves that stuff.
Mhm.
And Martine's an Enneagram 5 or whatever it is. Well, it's like that doesn't really mean anything to me unless I
Yeah.
sit down and look at, okay, well then now this explains why Martine and I, we might have the same idea, but we don't always get along because I'm
Yeah.
presenting it in one manner and Martine's presenting it in another manner. So I think personally, I think those types of things are only important when it comes to the relationship factor, and that's also something that you really subscribe to in the sense of opening up those communication channels.
Absolutely. And I would say, for me, like if you look at the disc profile, I'm actually reading a book right now on disc. If it's right here, it's called, what is it called? Actually, it's a funny title. I gotta look it back up, but it's, dealing with stupid people or something. I think that's actually what it's called. And it's about the disc profile. And I've read this, I know about Enneagram and all those other things. The thing for me though, is that, you have to remember all that stuff. How do you remember that stuff? And the problem is when you're in the middle of a conflict, that stuff just goes out, like all those ideas just go out the window. So I had to figure out a better way than to remember, okay, you're ISDNCQ4, like all that other stuff, or you're this on the Enneagram or all. I just couldn't remember that because I was just upset. So I needed to find a way that I can deal with my own upset, or how I'm being triggered, or how I'm reacting. And I had to figure out a way to do that. And what happened is one day I was driving home from work and trying to figure out where we wanted to go for dinner. My wife and I were saying, where do you want to go to dinner? And she's like, anywhere you want to go. And I was like, okay, how about this place? And she's like, nah. How about this place? Nah. How about, it's like, but you said anywhere I want to go. So by the time I get home, I hung up the phone. I walk in the house. She's like, did you hang up on me? Now we're in a fight,
Right.
And I live right by the beach, and I walk down to the beach. And as I'm down walking, and this is the real quick version of the story, as I walk down to the beach, I realized that there were times in my life where I got out of fights, I got out of arguments, and I got out of tough situations because somebody asked a question, like I asked a question or somebody asked a question. And I was just like, wow, that's real curious. And I like curiosity. So let me try that. So I went back home and I said, I'm curious, honey, what did I do? And she told me everything I did. And it was really weird because I wasn't defending myself. And what I learned that day is that curiosity helps you override your reptilian response, and helps you understand more, and helps you even explore your own mindfulness during like conflict or when you're near conflict. And as a result of that, I literally wrote a book that night, after we had a long conversation, and because I just journal a lot. I wrote a book that night, and that's really what the curiosity theory was. It was just all those notes, and curiosity. It's like 68 pages. It's a really easy read. You can read it in like
Yeah.
one time.
Yeah, I highly recommend it, guys, for sure.
Yeah.
So, what I'll do is I'll put a link to the book in the comments after the show's posted. So,
Nice.
Martine, you created the curiosity theory because of your experience, and I know that since you're over the age of 14, you've had a few experiences with money.
Couple.
So, Tell me, what is the dumbest thing you've ever done with money, Martine?
I would say that so many things, but what I would say is that when I got married, like, so before I got married, I was doing really, really well. I was in the real estate business. I was selling real estate. I was doing what I thought was well. And when I proposed to my wife, she said, you need to have a better job. I was like, okay. So I switched jobs. And really from the very beginning of my relationship with her, and we're no longer married, but when from the very beginning of that relationship, she took over the whole finances. And I never took that back. I just, oh,
Mm.
okay, kind of like very, very I don't know what you would call that, like, I was just kind of like, dumb about it, and let it happen. And as a result, I just became I don't know, ignorant or inept. I don't know what it was, but
Mm.
I just became somebody that didn't care. Eventually I was just like, whatever. So I'd make money, but I would never know how much money we had. And then I would hide money, because I wanted my own money. And so I'd kind of like have to ask her permission for money. And it was it was really tough. And so I think the dumbest mistake was to give up being responsible for money.
Got it. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't think that that's too uncommon, unfortunately. You may have started as indifference,
Hmm.
and then
Yeah.
you use the word ignorant. So it started as indifference,
Yeah.
and then eventually over time it turns into ignorance. Like, I don't know where everything's going, right?
Yeah.
But even in financial coaching, we typically, when we work with couples, we teach them that one person is going to be more financially involved. It's never going to be 50-50. And maybe those roles will even switch over
Hmm.
time. But typically,
Hmm.
you have someone who's like 75% worrying about it, and the other person's like 25 or 60
Okay.
40 or something. So you always have one person who's leaning a little bit more on the finances, but it certainly can't be 100-0, So,
Can I ask you a question?
yeah.
Because like as a coach, I'm authentically wanting to learn. So let's say me, like if I have complete control over my finances right now, and I have a girlfriend, she's like she's HR, she's a CFO, she's like really smart girl. So I'm sure she'll take care of all the bills once, we get married or, whatever. And like how like as a man, that's like, oh, that's great. That really is cool.
Hmm.
How does like a person like me, or like a man, or, could be a woman in the situation, how do we stay strong, but allow, does he understand the question?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even
So
know if I can even ask the question well, because it's so,
it's that reactor in you, Martine. You're just
that's
spitting
right.
out the question. If you guys were to get to a place where you're getting married, and we never recommend physically combining finances until after people are married.
Of course.
But if
Yeah.
you always want to sit down and have the conversation. There's actually if you want to Google it, a great New York Times article called "The 13 Questions You Should Ask Before You Get Married." And it really should be the 13 questions you should ask before you get engaged. You shouldn't be asking any of these questions once you're engaged. You should know the answers already.
That's right.
And it goes through, are we going to have kids? What's the in-law situation? What's the holiday situation? Or what's the religion situation? And then it is, I think the way they phrase it is, will you pay my debt off for me? So
Mm.
really it's the money conversation. So in this particular example, I would say, let's start with just a conversation. How much do you make per year? Okay. Does that include like bonuses? So like how much, if that includes like a $10,000 bonus at the end of the year, or what are you bringing home per month? And just the ability to ask those questions without someone, dramatic flying off the handle or saying that's none of your business. That just opens up the line of communication to say, okay, there's two questions answered, and we don't have to focus on it the rest of the day. Let's
Yeah.
go out to dinner. And then maybe a week later, we start to say, hey, my car insurance is renewing. What are you paying on your car right now? Oh, I'm paying, oh, the rates are ridiculous. I'm paying $500 for two cars. It's insane. Blah, blah, blah. And as long as you're comfortable with these small questions, you will eventually be comfortable with the big questions. But it does take some dedication to asking those small questions and making sure you have the conversation and that the other person just doesn't back out of it.
You know what is so funny?
What? Is your car insurance renewing?
No, no.
Oh, curiosity.
And that's kind of like the irony of life, you know. The thing you try to get good at is that, you know, it's like, so I wrote a book called The Curiosity Theory. I have a workshop called The Curiosity Theory. And yet I still struggle in my own, in my own life with like, where do I put curiosity? You know, it's really interesting. And it's really, life is very ironic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like what you're saying, you're talking, I'm going, that's kind of obvious, you know, but that's how life is. It's really quite obvious from another person's perspective. And for me, like to share what I shared it's not tough for me because I'm very vulnerable when it comes to sharing, but it's also a very vulnerable thing because it's like, you know, God, you know, it's my ego's like, dude, you want to look all, you know, good and everything, you know, I take all the time to make all this background, have my, you know, the lights on and all that, you know,
Right.
it's like, yeah, I'm going to talk about how stupid I am when it comes to money, you know, it's funny, you know, like life is really funny. And then the answer is like, you can ask questions and find out, you're
Yeah.
like, oh God, you know, oh, I wrote a book about that. Duh, you know,
But it's so
that's
interesting
great
because
advice.
the reason I ask people like financial advisors and financial coaches and people who worked in real estate and lending for years and years, it's money touches everything.
Yeah.
You know, the term real estate industry really could be the financial real estate industry because in order to get the real estate, you need to have a good sum of money or you
Yes.
need to be able to qualify for a certain type of loan, you know, if you're
Yeah.
talking commercial or
Yeah.
whatever. It's money touches everything. And I think people hear that and they say, well, I don't, money is the root of all evil. I don't want money to touch everything. Money is not the root of all evil. Putting money before everything else, the love of money is the root of all evil. So having these conversations of what are you paying for car insurance? Hey, what are you paying for rent right now? You know, you guys might be talking about moving in together. Well, what's that going to do to our budgets? Is it going to half our housing costs? Is it going to third our housing costs? Because now we have 50% more money in our budget that came from rent. Well, what are we
Yeah.
doing with
Yeah.
that money? Are we going to go on vacation or are we going to put it in our retirement?
Yeah.
If you go on vacation, you've lost the opportunity to put in your retirement. If you put
I
it in
know.
retirement, you've lost the opportunity to go on vacation.
I was thinking about that this morning because I'm going to do the Spartan race in Hawaii in next August. And I'm like, oh man, does that
Yeah.
mean I'm going to like, cause you know, that's like 4 or 5 grand. I'm going to just not be able to put away, you know, but it's
Yep.
true. It's true. You know,
Yeah.
it's
When is
really
the
true.
race?
It's August 22nd of next year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Where is it located?
In Hawaii.
What area?
I don't know that. I don't know the
Oh,
different
okay.
islands.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't
Gotcha.
know
Yeah.
the
I've
different
heard
islands.
of
Yeah.
it before, but I've never known
Yeah.
anybody who's done it actually.
I just did the Spartan race like 3 weeks ago. So up
Oh,
in Big
cool.
Bear. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
That's all. It must have been beautiful in Big Bear.
It was well, you know, you're climbing up crazy mountains. So
I didn't say it wasn't painful. I just said it was beautiful.
That's right. It's beautiful, painful. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous up there.
Yeah. So in that situation, what I would say is, okay, if that trip's going to be a $4,000 or $5,000 trip, what month is it? It's November.
Mhm.
We're looking at a trip that's happening in August of next year. Let's be super, super cautious and assume it's going to be a $5,000 trip. Well, let's divide 5,000 by however many months we have to save up for it. And that's what we need to be putting away every month. And that's going to be a lot easier than saying on August 1st, oh man, I need to book flights. Let me go pull out the credit card. Now we've got a
Yeah,
whole pile
yeah,
of cash sitting there. We can book the flights early if we see the rates are low. It gives us this flexibility to lock in a hotel. So that's what I would say in that particular situation. But again, that's a vacation, but there's still money tied to it, right?
yeah, yeah. No, it's their choices. Like you're talking about real estate. So, you know, I'm looking if I want to buy an investment property. So that's money that I can leverage. It's like, you know, so
Right,
you
right.
know, there's
Five thousand
always
dollars
choices.
is a
Yeah,
chunk of a down payment for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. But then you'll lose the opportunity to go to Hawaii and do the race.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
you know,
So
it's about quality of life and you know, how can I stay in the quality of life and how can I override like the reactions I can, you know, because it's like, how do I
yes.
navigate delicate situations? This is a delicate. How do I explore how I look at it? How do I explore how Ingrid looks at it? How do we do this
Mhm.
together? How do we transform our beliefs, our behaviors into something that's actually, wow, this is actually, we're going to use this as a way for us to make more money or to come, you know, that those things.
Yes,
So
absolutely. So let's take a step back, Martine. If we could go back in time to when you had kind of turned indifferent to your finances and given the reins over to your previous spouse, what would you go back and do differently?
I think I would spend more time like learning. I would have wanted to learn like what she's doing, like and versus be because I remember how I felt. Like I was just I would just somehow like she would bring up paying the bills and it would just scare me. And it never did before. I
Mm,
just pay the bills, you know. And so there was just something about how that was. And I just didn't handle it in what I think was an emotionally, good manner. So I think I would deal with my emotions a little bit, well, much better and go, okay, this is gonna be scary for right now, you know. And I think that's what I find, is important to be real responsible for how I felt. I felt a little scared, a little intimidated, and I didn't take personal responsibility for that. I blamed the other person. You're
mm.
intimidating, you're scary, So
Right, right. When it may very well have just been the topic that was scary, and perhaps you were doing a little bit of projecting.
yeah, it's 100%. It's
Yeah.
100% done. Like out of the curiosity theory, what I saw was there was an opportunity for men, and I created something called Men's Breakthrough Challenge. And the first workshop is this Saturday, and it's already sold out and everything. And the idea of the workshop, one of the things that came about is that I was asking men, like, candidly, "Are you afraid of your wife?" And everyone said yes. I'm afraid. Yeah, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of
Wow.
disappointing her. I'm afraid of hurting her. I'm afraid of her getting mad. All this stuff. And then when I interviewed women, they were saying, "Yeah, if you're afraid, then I have to take over." And so there was this kind of like this kind of like dominance kind of thing, avoid domination that started to happen. And it was not what we wanted to have happen in our relationships, but it was a natural function of survival.
I was
And
gonna say it's a survival tactic, right? If
it's
one
total
person is
survival.
I mean, we can go back to Darwin. If we've got the weak party over here, there's gonna have to be a strong party that allows the species to survive.
Exactly it. Like, listen, if you're not talking about the bills and the bills are coming in right now, I don't, I need to make sure my kids are going to have food next week. So I'm going
Right.
to have to pay the bills. And if you're not going to talk about it, I'm going to take it. So it's all that kind of, that's just inherent in relationships. And the thing about the men's breakthrough challenges, what I'm realizing is that as we're evolving, as we're starting to take on different roles and men are trying to find their way, like, how do I be a man this way? Because 100 years ago, it was like, it was my way or the highway. Now
Right.
it's a degree of let's work together, but it's we're trying to find a balance in that. And there's no, somebody says do it this way, somebody does it this way, but how do you want to do it? How can you be a leader in your life? How can you be a powerful man, but not have that be that you're stepping on your wife, not stepping on your kids and stepping on people? How do you not intrude but still empower this beautiful woman, this great woman, this great partner of yours to be the greatest version of herself? And you do the same thing. Like, wow, how do I do that?
Yeah.
I got to
That's
step up my
awesome.
game. I got to step up my game.
It's
And
there's no doubt in my mind that this workshop you're doing would have sold out immediately. This is fantastic.
thank you. Thank you.
That's awesome, Martine. Great. Well, I'm going to have you send me a link to that too, so that everybody watching this episode can get to that as well for the next one that you're
Absolutely.
doing. And guys, I really hope you enjoyed our conversation with Martine. Obviously, go check out his book, The Curiosity Theory. I've known him for a long time, and I highly recommend it. I hope you enjoyed your time here, Martine. I
I loved
appreciate
it.
your honesty. And I hope everybody will join us next week for another episode of Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money. And if you tuned in late, I saw a lot of people jumped in here late today. Get on the YouTube channel and make sure to check out Lessons Learned, the dumbest thing I've ever done with money on the YouTube replay. Talk to you guys soon. Thanks, Martine.